Hi, welcome to the Oldish TV. My name is Karen Brown. I'm the publisher and editor of the Oldish, and as always, it's my pleasure to welcome you here. Now, today we're going to talk about a subject that doesn't get talked about very often, death. But there's so much positive to talk about. And you know, death is not really something that is discussed a great deal in polite company, even with our own families, nearly as much as it should be. In fact, there are cultures that embrace death with their young children almost from birth. Death is part of the way of life, and they celebrate it as they celebrate life. We North Americans are a little more touchy about it, so let's take a look at some very positive things that we have published recently on our website, which is theoldish.com. You can find all of this there. Now, very recently we published an article that was based on a blog by a lady named Bonnie Ware. Now, she's a nurse, and she has done a lot of work around death and dying, and her blog is really interesting. I'm going to show it to you, but our article, which I will show to you at this point, there we are. Nurse records top regrets of dying. And you can read all of this on our website. The number one regret is that they didn't lead the life they wished for. In fact, that we all spend too much time living our lives in accordance with how other people want us to live our lives. Does that resonate with you? Is that something you can relate to? It's certainly something that I can relate to. And in fact, I think I was probably in my late 30s before it really kind of dawned on me that other people were having a little too much influence on my life. And I think maybe that's a time in our lives for most of us when we do start thinking that. Maybe some people who are bolder in life come to these realizations a little sooner than I did, certainly. So, not leading the life that you wished that you would have led. The second thing, and this was for men in particular, and no surprise, they said that they wished they had not spent as much time working. Does that relate to you as well? I know a lot of men who would say that. Older men often stayed in secure jobs because of a lot of right reasons. They wanted to support their families. They felt that was their job, but it left them without that time to actually make personal connections with their family. Interesting. The third regret, not being true to oneself. So stifling feelings in order to get along with others. Not being your authentic self. I think that there are a lot of us who can relate to that. Letting valued friendships slip away. You know, we all get busy in life. We get busy with our own children, with our own careers, and friendships, maybe in some cases that we've had since childhood, can slip away. People are more geographically dispersed now. We move around a lot compared to the way our parents' generations and certainly our grandparents' generations moved around this world. So letting those friendships that brought us comfort and strength slip away is the fourth regret. The fifth regret is people not allowing themselves to be truly happy. Can you imagine? I wonder what that is about. Fearing change. Being happy, many palliative care patients realize too late, is a choice. Isn't that interesting? We are choosing to stay stuck in a rut that doesn't make us happy. We are not choosing happy. Does that resonate with you? I've always been a pretty happy person, so maybe that is not something that is tops on my list, but I can certainly understand it. Being happy truly is a choice. People often choose to be miserable. Do you know people like that? I do. They're just happy being miserable, and I have never really understood it. But that is the fifth top regret from dying patients, is that they just simply didn't choose to be happy. Now, let me show you Bonnie's website. Here it is. There we go. BonnieWare.com. Some of you may find this really interesting. She has written books. She has a really interesting blog, and it was one of these blog posts that caught our attention. One of her blogs that I pulled that really kind of struck a chord with me is one that talks about 5 things that she has learned through her nursing practice. Courage is the greatest tool for bringing our dreams into reality. Just having that courage to jump out. You know, I'm not sure how many of you may have watched Nik Wallenda and his sister cross that wire above Times Square last weekend. It was on Sunday night. And the Wallendas always fascinate me because I have a dreadful fear of heights. I don't even like standing on a chair to change a light bulb. And these people think nothing of walking on these very tiny little wires across vast expanses. And it terrifies me, but I can't look away at the same time. Are you kind of like that? I know I am. The reason I bring that up is because as Nik Wallenda was crossing this wire toward his sister who was coming in the opposite direction, he was talking about dreaming big. Yes, as he's crossing the wire, he's philosophizing. He said, dream big. You got to dream big and reach out for those dreams and have the courage to reach out for those dreams. Isn't that interesting? Those of you who are devotees of Oprah Winfrey's may have heard her say similar kinds of things. Have the courage. Number 2 in this blog post was surrender is much more effective than striving or forcing. Sometimes you just have to surrender to what the universe has planned for you. And sometimes surrendering to other people is not really about giving up. It's more about choosing your battles. It's a very important lesson to learn. Frankly, it's one I'm still learning. I'll be honest with you. The third point in this blog was our dreams require us to triumph over upper limits. Sometimes those upper limits are imposed on us. Sometimes they're cultural or societal. Sometimes they are limits imposed by people who don't want us to achieve. Dream big. Have the courage. Isn't that an interesting point? The fourth point is self-care is crucial for an authentic life. I think a lot of us have viewed self-care through the years as selfish. As parents, when our children are little, they come first. As mothers, you women are going to relate to this along with me. Everybody else comes first. It's not until you are somewhat older and you can look back and see that looking after yourself is really necessary so that you stay healthy for those around you who really do need you. So that point was well taken. Self-care is crucial for an authentic life. You have to love yourself. Interesting, eh? And the fifth point, real life connections are the essence of joy. The internet can be a wonderful thing. It is a wonderful thing. It is the basis of many of my businesses. And we have talked about the kinds of connections that people need to have. Let me just get this back up here. We have talked about the kinds of connections that people need to have with real life people to get those endorphins clicking so that it's part of our wellness routine. We've talked about the fact that going to a grocery store and actually interacting with real people, or going to the library, going to the post office, just being out and talking to your neighbors is really essential for those connections that make us feel less isolated. And so this point that real life connections are the essence of joy is connected to all of those philosophies very strongly. Interesting. So her website, again, I'll show it to you. Want regrets or joy? It's called bonnieware.com. She's an Australian woman, by the way. And again, I will repeat, she spent her life as a nurse. And the things that she learned, her own personal education beyond a formal education, is what she shares here. Okay, so now then, let's come back here, and I want to show you also a couple of other articles that we have posted. Here's one that we posted back in May, the death wellness movement taking root. Do you know that there is such a thing as death doulas? Much as there are birth doulas who help women who are bringing children into this world, there are death doulas who help people leave this world. It's a real thing, and there are actually courses where people become certified in doing this. And we published this article back in May of 2019. And the death doulas talk about death options with people. They bring this conversation forward. They talk very openly, honestly, and frankly about a number of things surrounding a person's death. It's a really interesting piece. There is a link in this article to the End of Life Doula Association. I will leave that with you to investigate, but it's all about breaking through that wall that keeps us silent about death. So again, this article is called Death Wellness Movement Taking Root. Just the other day, we published this, which is maybe a little far out on a limb for some people. It's on our Facebook page right now. I put it there because I thought you would be interested in it. Lab grows cremated ashes into diamonds. Now, I have very often seen people wearing necklaces or jewelry of some kind with pieces of people's ashes inside just a little chamber that they wear around their neck. I've seen them on bracelets too, but I think maybe that is just a little too dangerous because of the way our hands clash around. But I have certainly seen them on necklaces. I have seen families divide up ashes amongst themselves, and sometimes they keep them in outdoor spaces, outdoor rocks. I know that the last 3 dogs that my family has had, their ashes are in rocks with a little plaque on them, and I put them out in the garden every spring, and they stay there until the fall, and I bring them into the shed. They could stay out for the winter, but I put them in the shed, along with all of the other garden ornaments. Interestingly, when I was looking at this, it does talk about people choosing this option for dogs. There you go. Technology is now allowing this for pets. Now, before you get too excited about this, it's a bit of a process, and it's a bit costly. Prices start at $3,000 for a 0.3 carat stone. Most clients are ordering stones in the half carat size. Isn't that interesting? There is a link, though, for those of you who are interested in pursuing this. There are all kinds of things that they look for before they will carry on about this. There are 5 companies, it says, that provide this unique service, the largest of which is in Switzerland. So you would have to send your loved one's ashes there. I'm actually not sure that I would do that with a 2-legged loved one, but with a 4-legged loved one, that actually sounds like something I might consider were it not for the $3,000 price tag. That's a lot of money. Maybe I'll be content to leave my pet's ashes in the rocks for the time being. Anyway, I wanted to bring those stories to you today and see if maybe that opens up some conversation for you with your family. You know, the discussion around death rises so many options that are available out there. I know that many people still like to stick with traditional funerals, burials, and cremations, but even the funeral industry is undergoing huge changes. I know that our local funeral home has a branch in another town not too far away, and they recently did a funeral in the recreation center on the ice hockey surface. This particular person loved cars, and so they brought all of his old cars and they set them out around the arena, and they had speakers, and they just did the funeral in a very unique way that honored what was important to this individual. I know that even in the funeral industry, traditional coffins are giving way to things that are decomposable in a much more earth-friendly way. I saw an article recently, and I think we may have even published an article about it, where people are being buried occasionally in mushroom suits. So they're foregoing the whole coffin, and it is replaced, if you will, by a suit made of mushrooms. And you bury the person in this suit, and it decomposes at a much more rapid rate. So if you are somebody who is earth-friendly but not quite into the cremation thing, this is an option for you. The point is, there are so many options out there. I do think, though, that before a family can begin discussing these kinds of options, we need to get a lot more comfortable discussing death. Take a look at some of these articles. We have an entire channel on our website, which again is theoldish.com. It is related to end-of-life issues. And you will find all kinds of articles there that bring forward ideas for discussion, that bring forward new and novel ideas. And while some of them may seem like they're a little far out for you, they may prompt some interesting discussion between you and your loved ones. And it's always good to have those discussions so that everybody in a family is aware of everybody else's wishes. Because whether you are in your 90s or hundreds, or you're in your 20s, you know, the reality is our days could be over at any given time, and it's really important that we understand how our loved ones wish to be remembered and honored. That's our show for today, folks. Do take care, and remember that it does indeed take a village to age a senior.